This conference will now be recorded.
Hello, and welcome to Coffee with the Commission. Today we will be discussing common mistakes that happen when applying for your MD and PA license. Joining us today, we have our licensing manager, Marissa Courtney, and licensing lead, Emma Marienthal. Our panelists are going to provide an overview of the common mistakes that arise during the application process, and then we'll use the rest of our time to answer your questions. This is an informal conversation, so please feel free to turn on your camera and unmute yourself to ask your question. Alternatively, you can write your questions in the chat and I'll ask them for you. And just so everyone understands, we cannot discuss specific licensing applications, open cases, and ongoing investigations in this forum. So with all that being said, I will turn it over.
Wonderful. Thank you, Jimmy, for having us back. This is a great transition for us to come back to Coffee with Commission, since our last segment was about time-saving tips for applicants, and now we are segueing into what we in the licensing unit have found to be common mistakes when applying for a license here in Washington. Perfect timing. We're going right into our peak season for all of our new graduates coming out of medical school and applying for their limited licenses. Also, everyone who's gone through their postgraduate training and now is ready to apply for that full MD license, along with all the PAs that come through in the summer. This is just a really good time to compile everything that we have come across, and hopefully everyone who would like to apply for a license here in Washington will take the time to watch this prior to turning in that application. So hopefully you don't make those same mistakes that we have found processing in the past. So first and foremost, what we always recommend, if anyone calls in or emails us with any questions, we always try to direct them to our wmc.wa.gov website. We had a wonderful time period of revamping our website, revamping all of our licensing requirements. So everything that hopefully you have a question about prior to submitting that application should be on our licensing requirements page through our commission website. We also have a fantastic FAQ part for those, and hopefully everything should be easy to understand, accessible for everyone, and so hopefully going through these next couple mistakes, you'll be able to avoid those. Honestly, the most common mistakes that we find primarily, it happens pretty early in the process where an applicant will unfortunately apply for the incorrect license. So a scenario that we've seen in the past is a new graduate coming straight out of medical school. There are several different choices when applying for a limited license for an MD, and they start out the year applying for one license, and a couple weeks later, they've actually sat down and talked to the program that they're going to be joining in the summer, and they find out that they applied for the incorrect license. So we want to make sure that everyone's reading the requirement page and really trying to only apply once. The more you apply, or the more applications you submit, can delay us in processing, and it delays the applicant in getting the license that they needed. So hopefully for any new graduates, you'll talk to your programs prior to submitting any type of application, and that way everything from start to finish kind of flows in the time frame that we're hoping to provide for you. For established MDs who are coming to Washington to apply for that full MD license, a lot of them choose to go through the Federation of State Medical Boards using their uniform application. They might be applying for multiple states at a time, and that might be what is best for them in this scenario. But what we are finding is that a lot of the time people are submitting a uniform application, paying, I believe, like that $60 application fee, and thinking that that's all that they have to do, and they don't submit anything else to the commission. A lot of the time, people will go through the Federation of State Medical Boards and only submit the uniform application, and then think because they have provided the application They don't need to submit any type of application fee or addendums pertaining to Washington. So a lot of the time that will delay the process in getting them licensed because they've only submitted one thing, and that's only about 70% of what we actually need from them. A lot of the time people will confuse the uniform application with their USMLE transcript and or the SCBS packet. There's a giant difference in what those two things are, not only in their content, but in their price. And so we just want to make sure that for applicants who are choosing to use that uniform application, that you're submitting that application, you're going back to the FSMB website, you are getting those Washington State addendums, and then you're also ordering either your USMLE transcript in conjunction with that application, or if you're choosing to go forward with the FCBS packet that has your medical school transcripts, your postgraduate training verifications, and your USMLEs, you order those in conjunction with also submitting a uniform application. The other thing that we see pretty commonly is people will submit the uniform application through the FSMB, and then they'll come back to our WMC website, and they'll also apply using our Washington State application through our portal. And it's definitely not necessary. It's only necessary for you to choose one application or the other. If you submit a uniform application, you won't need to come back and fill out ours or vice versa. A lot of the time when people call us and ask, what we see is easier for applicants or what makes the process go smoothly, it's really just a personal preference on the applicant. But we see that when people go through our Washington portal, through our Washington State application, they fill out the application in full. They get to submit all of their addendums at the same time that pertains to the application. And then they also get to pay at that time, get an automatic payment receipt, and then get automatic verification that their application has been submitted to the Washington State Commission. And so that's just really a preference on the applicant, but we're hoping that people will take the time to first figure out which one they want and not go through multiple avenues that they really don't need to in the first place. So.
Thank you, Emma. Another tip that we've come across is, or a common mistake, I apologize, is not providing accurate mailing address or contact information when applying. A lot of cases where we are seeing providers place addresses of future facilities or future houses that they will be moving into but not currently residing in. What this does, it affects the ability of providing you with your fingerprint packet if you're selected for fingerprinting. So not only is it causing a delay in you receiving that, but it's also maybe causing a delay in your overall processing, because now you have to contact us and let us know you did not receive your fingerprint packet and need a new one sent out. Right now with the pandemic, mailing is not just 2 to 3 days anymore. It may take a little bit longer, so you have to keep that in mind with receiving a new packet and then mailing that back in for processing. So please make sure you're providing us with the correct information. We are now being proactive when we actually start your application process. We reach out to you as soon as we complete the first couple of steps in your process and let you know, hey, your application has been started. We will reach out to you in a couple weeks, and we give you a contact number or a contact information email for you to reach out after a couple weeks so we can begin to work, finish your application. But we're trying to be more proactive in providing you with updates on your application throughout the process. However, if you're not providing us with an accurate email address, which we primarily contact you with, it really affects things. And then you're contacting us wanting to know a status update when we're proactively reaching out and contacting you, but you gave us a school address, email address that you're no longer using, or an old Yahoo that you don't remember the password to access. So please make sure that you're providing us with a good mailing address for you to actually receive documents from us and a good email address so you can keep in contact with us. We want to make sure you know where you are in the process, and if there's documents that are needed that you can quickly provide to us so we can get going on your application. Another, to piggyback on documentation, if you have like a personal data question that you selected yes for in regards to medical condition, malpractice, any criminal history, those are documents that can affect your application in regards to timeline. What we're seeing is even though they have their own specific timeline, not providing adequate information at the time of applying has really slowed down the process even more for these applicants. And we just want to make sure that if you have something that you're marking yes to, or you need to provide with your application, that you do it up front. So we just know right off the bat that, okay, we need to make sure that every documentation is in and that we can adequately have it forwarded to either myself or a medical consultant for review. Another common mistake in regards to the application is chronology. That's when you fill out your personal experience in the application. We recently, as of last year, changed the chronology. It used to be where you would fill out every single thing you've done since medical school. And for some people, medical school was many years ago. And there were gaps that were being left out. Or there were gaps in chronology. So we want to make sure we changed it so that if you are a recent grad, go ahead and fill out chronology since the time you completed graduating from medical school until today's date of the application. Or if you have been practicing for quite some time, just the last 7 years, we just want to know what you've been doing. And if there are gaps over 90 days, just provide a quick statement, either vacation, maternity leave, moved across the country, just anything so we know exactly what was happening during that time and don't need to reach out to you for that information. Recently, we have changed our requirements for medical school transcripts. They are still a requirement. However, we have other means to be able to verify your medical education. So if you are a new grad, most likely we will ask you for your transcripts. Please hold off until we actually contact you and ask you to provide those, because there may be another report we can pull a little bit later on in your application process that would be able to verify that. It will save you some time and money, so why not just hold off just a little bit longer so we can see if we can save you both time and money. We are, for other medical school or other providers who have been practicing, we have seen that we have been able to successfully pull reports to verify medical education. So if you have been practicing a little bit longer, at least 2 years, we are able to verify your medical education a different route. So please hold off on providing transcripts until you receive an email from the licensing unit asking you to.
Absolutely. Awesome guidance, Marissa, on those. Going directly into another common mistake that we find, not only do people sometimes not provide the most up-to-date contact information due to the type of background checks we do and internal processing. We do have a section in the application right under the demographic information asking if you have ever been known by a different name. A lot of the times people do list the different names if they've been married or they had a name change. But in certain circumstances, we're either trying to verify identification, run a background report, something pertaining to the application, and we just can't find this information. So then we're having to go back and reach out to the applicant again, just explaining we've attempted to do this process on our own. Is there by chance a different name that you've been known under? And then we find out that they've gone through either a marriage or a name change in the time that they have graduated medical school and they didn't disclose that. So that's just another time factor in the application. So hopefully When you are applying, if you have ever been known by a different name, that's really the only reason we would need to know that information, just so that we can smoothly continue on with the process when we're pulling any type of necessary report. Or a lot of the time, if we're trying to download documents that you have requested from maybe another board, or if you're releasing your board scores to us and we can't find it under your last name, we'll try our best to pull from what we know, but more than likely we'll have to reach out to you again. And so hopefully at the time that you apply, you'll disclose that before submitting your application. Another mistake that we have seen before with physician assistants, just because we went paperless last year and we tried to do our best to update everything, including the delegation agreement process. It's now, thankfully, it's electronic, and the great thing is that you get same-day approval. So with any new physician assistant or any physician assistant that needs to maybe submit a new agreement or update any information on the agreement, the day that you get licensed is the day that you can submit that delegation agreement through the Commission's online portal on our website. Once you submit that delegation agreement, everything's filled out, and you click submit, you as the physician assistant get same-day approval. So, I mean, within hours, you can start working, or you can get your employment verification set up, everything like that. So now you're not waiting on our licensing unit to process your request. Everything is in your hands or in your supervising physician's hands, so that you guys can get that done in a quick manner, so that you're not waiting on us for that information. Another thing that we see when we are processing applications is, like when Marissa was speaking about verifying your education or verifying your postgraduate training. One of the reports that we can do that through is your AMA profile, the American Medical Association profile. Basically, it's a profile of where you've graduated, what licenses you've held previously, verify post-grad training, and a couple other items in regards to any maybe disciplinary action in another state or anything like that. And if we don't have that when we are initially intaking your application into our system, that can delay things, and it might take a little bit for your AMA profile to actually be created, so that the Commission can go into their portal and actually obtain that report. And we then have to stop and contact the applicant and let them know we attempted to pull it. We couldn't find any information connected to your name. Please get this created so that we can continue processing your application. And that, just dependent on them, it might be instantaneous. It might take a little bit to get you a profile. So we just want to make sure ahead of time, prior to you submitting an application, that your AMA profile is created, and also it's accessible to us when we go in the portal to download your report.
Awesome. Another common mistake that we're finding is with providers. We know you guys are busy and you are trying to most likely apply for a license in multiple states. So you may actually reach out and contact a credentialing office or a credentialing company, or your employer might want to know the status of your the status of your application. What we do for your privacy is we do not release any information about your application without an actual signed release by you in this company. This is for your protection. It protects us, and it's making sure that your information is not being shared with anyone else without your knowledge. So what we encourage is, if you are utilizing a third-party company or you have an employer that would like to know the status of your application, please make sure that you provide us with a release at the time of you apply. You can either upload it in our online portal when you actually fill out your application if you already have that contract or if you have that release signed already. Or if you need to submit one at a later time, please just email that information to our new email address, which is medical.association www.licensing@wmc.wa.gov. This just makes it easier, so if we have someone who is contacting and wanting to help you obtain your license quicker, that just means that we have something in writing to just say it's okay for us to release that. So it will help if we already have that information readily available. If not, please just go ahead and have you email it to us, and then we will be able to share that information and help with your application. We want to thank you so much for taking time and listening to these common tips. We are common mistakes, and hopefully they will help make your application be a smoother process and be actually an enjoyable process. We have done so much in this past year, especially with the pandemic, to make sure that our customer service and our processing times are improving and just making an overall better experience for providers coming to Washington. We thank every single one of you for what you're doing right now in this world, and especially in Washington. And we just want to make sure that you are set up for success when you apply. A big thing that I want to end with is just making sure that you do not wait to apply at the last minute. If you know you're going to be on an assignment here in Washington, we want you to come here and we want you to work. Just give us a little bit more time to be able to do that for you. If you know that you have an assignment in 2 weeks, please get it in as soon as possible. We would prefer more time than that, but we will try to do our best. However, if you just start off from the bat, if you know you're going to be coming here and you have a little bit of time, go ahead and submit your application now. We'd rather you have a license now and waiting until your start date instead of waiting until your start date and submitting something and then not being able to start. We want you here. We want you to practice. So we just thank you for your time, and we appreciate everything that you're doing.
Absolutely. Jimmy, did we have any questions we could answer or anything like that?
Yeah, so I just wanted to thank you ladies so much for taking the time and remind everyone that this recording will be available on our website within the next few days. Please share it with your circles and your colleagues and reach out to us if you have any questions. While we give people a moment to write in their questions and unmute themselves, I do want to remind everyone of a few upcoming events. So mark your calendars for May 3rd when we will be providing a 2021 opioid rules update and refresher. On May 5th, we're going to be having a webinar on common laws, rules, and regulations that all PAs and MDs need to know. And on June 16th, we're going to be having a webinar on the changes coming to PA practice as a result of recent rulemaking and legislation. I will put the link to our event calendar and registration in the chat in case anyone needs that information. But let me just, okay. So one question that I thought maybe we could have a little clarification on is hopefully no one submits the wrong license type, right? Let's start there. But mistakes happen, and if the wrong license type application is submitted, what is the best way to rectify that?
Best way to rectify that would be to immediately contact us in the licensing unit. With our current status of the unit, email is preferable. Ultimately, we can't really do anything unless there's a written request showing that that applicant actually reached out to the commission and is requesting the change of license. So basically, the medical.licensing@wmc.wa.gov. Send us an email. Please provide as much information as possible so we can look you up in our system. And then at that point, we can connect with you and actually get you the right application and give you written instructions to reference so that you can get the correct application to our commission as quickly as possible.
And please do not apply again online.
Yes.
We have the ability to transfer over fees to any correct license that you or for the application fee that you've already submitted. If you apply again online, that fee, you will be charged again, and that fee is not refundable. So we want to make sure that you're not spending, double money or paying twice for a very easy solution that we can fix. So please just reach out to us. Do not apply again on the online portal. They will charge you again. So we just want to make sure that we can correct your mistake and then just move everything over to the correct license and get that taken care of for you.
Thank you. So I'll give everyone a second to unmute themselves or finish their question. Well, it doesn't look like we have any other questions. So I would like to just thank you ladies again for taking time and helping everyone through this somewhat complicated process. And on behalf of all of us at the WMC, thank you and take care.
Thank you again.
Bye.
Take care.
Thank you.